the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast.
Next up, how about the Indianapolis Colts, who finished 2022 at 4-12-1, scoring 289 points and giving up 427. Everyone in the AFC South is playing for second at this point behind the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm not sure there's a team that can even flirt with a 500 record. Now, the Colts are no different this season because when I look at what they have in this lineup, I just don't know if there's enough talent sprinkled all over the place for them to make enough noise when the dust all settles, because they got some good young talent. This is maybe the biggest freak type roster out there. When you talk about pure athleticism, take a look at those relative athletic scores of all these Colts that have been drafted in the last couple of years. This is the freak show here. You got Gardner Minshew and Anthony Richardson splitting first team reps right now. If Richardson's splitting first team reps, it's Richardson's job. You got Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss, Deion Jackson, Evan Hall, who's a great pass catching back there, all in that running back room. At wide receiver, you got Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, Isaiah McKenzie, Ashton Doodlin, Mike Straction. So you've got some players who can catch the ball in this team. And then, of course, at tight end, you've got yourself Jelani Woods, Kylan Granson, Mo Alley Cox, and another athletic freak from this year's draft class, Will Mallory. Again, the offensive line has always been one of the strengths of this Indianapolis Colts. It took a bit of a dip last season, but it's looking to come back. And defensively, they're solid. I mean, Kwity Paye, DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Adigabo there, EJ Speed, Shaq Leonard, Zaire Franklin, Kenny Moore, Rodney Thomas, Julian Blackman, and Isaiah Rodgers Sr. So now that we know what the Colts are working with heading into 2023, let's talk about what went wrong there in 2022. Let's kind of do a recap there. Indianapolis, they had high hopes coming into 2022 there. Jonathan Taylor was coming off an 1,800-yard rushing season. That's something really important to remember a little bit later. The team was coming off a 9-8 season the year before under Carson Wentz, and they felt they had a quarterback upgrade there with the former MVP, Matt Ryan, when they made that trade. They did not. Ryan would go on and turn over the ball 17 times, including 14 interceptions, while giving way to both Sam Ehlinger and Nick Foles. Indianapolis gave up 138 more points than they were able to score, which was the worst differential in the entire league. Now, the Colts started the season 4-5-1 before dropping the final 7 contests. My prediction for them this season is a 5-12 season once again. And really, that is an improvement. I mean, they're trading in one of those ties for a victory. So, hey, that's an improvement for the Colts, I guess, if you want to look for a win there. Now, a camp battle that I'm looking forward to right now, it is at the wide receiver position. Is it going to be Alec Pierce? Is it going to be Josh Downs? Or is it going to be Jelani Woods? Who's going to be that second passing option behind Michael Pittman Jr. for Anthony Richardson? Now, Indianapolis, I said they have plenty of young talent surrounding Richardson, so we're going to have to wait to see how this shakes up. Who the Colts franchise quarterback is going to trust. Who does he build chemistry with throughout the OTAs? I mean, there's some good options there. If I was a betting man, I think Downs is kind of the guy, but I love myself some Jelani Woods because we're going to talk about him when we talk about our top 5 fantasy assets. That's a spoiler alert right there. Now, when you look at this Colts draft class, I mentioned it was like freaking at the freakers ball here. They had all kinds of freaks that they picked up, starting at the first overall pick there in Anthony Richardson. I mean, he may be the biggest freak of the ball when it comes to relative athletic scoring. In the second round, they went out there and addressed the cornerback position with Julius Brents. Third round, Josh Downs. Fourth round, they went to the offensive tackle position there with Blake Freeland. Fourth round, they went with Adewale there, the defensive tackle. And then in the 5th round, it was Darius Rush and Will Mallory. And then finally in the 6th round, or late in the 5th round, they ended up grabbing Evan Hall, who's a great pass catching back in his own right. Looking at their offseason additions via free agency, how about the top free agent signing there possibly being head coach Shane Steichen there? You also had Isaiah McKenzie, Gardner Minshew, edge rusher Samson Enacom there, as well as Taven Bryan there on the defensive line. The losses for the Colts started at the cornerback position where they traded Stephon Gilmore. Then they cut Matt Ryan. Then they lost the linebacker there, Bobby Okereke, as well as wide receivers Paris Campbell and Brandon Fastoon there on as the corner. So there were some significant losses here for the Colts heading into 2023. But the best move, obviously, was taking care of that quarterback position and taking care of the guy who's going to be taking care of the quarterback position, and that's the hiring of Shane Steichen there. Look, Drafting Anthony the Ham Cannon Richardson is going to do wonders. But when you have the guy who's mentored Jalen Hurts the last couple seasons, installing a similar type offense that includes RPOs, in which Richardson is going to be able to definitely take advantage of, even if he struggles early with his passing accuracy, like many people are kind of assuming he's going to, he's still going to have the option to run the ball when he feels like it because of the RPO type action. And when you have a quarterback that has that Jalen Hurts ability, that has that Lamar Jackson ability, listen, that's going to be good for fantasy. And you got the right guy there to groom it, assuming that Steichen is going to be able to groom him as a head coach where he was grooming Jalen Hurts as the offensive coordinator. Does that role stay similar? That's to be seen. Now, as for the worst move for this Colts team, it's on the defensive side of the ball, and that is the loss of Bobby O. I mean, that's going to hurt. Zaire Franklin and Shaquille Leonard, they're great in their own rights. I just don't think that EJ Speed is going to be able to step up into a full-time role this season. Maybe he does, but I don't think he's going to give you the same type of production, the same kind of tackling ability as a all-pro or a Pro Bowl linebacker gave him last season. So what needs to happen for the Colts in 2023? Well, it's simple. Anthony Richardson can't play like a rookie. He has to go in there and play like a vet. And this defense has to stay healthy, and they have to improve. Last season, they gave up the fourth most points on a per game basis, 25.1. The Colts need to limit Anthony Richardson's growing pains. If the accuracy isn't there off the hop, then the higher than expected percentage of their RPOs are going to have to be run options rather than the pass option. That all being said, when you look at this, Anthony Richardson is going to be a factor because when you look at the top 5 fantasy assets for the Indianapolis Colts, I mean, you've got some great players here, starting with Jonathan Taylor. It's like we forgot that Taylor was who he was after just one injury-filled season there. In 11 games, Taylor finished just 139 yards shy of 1,000, averaging 4.5 yards per carry and averaging 13.3 fantasy points per contest. Listen, he was like top 5 when it came to touches per game. So the production, the opportunity, it's still going to be there. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. And number 2, the rookie himself, Anthony Richardson. I mentioned he's already splitting those number 1 reps there with Gardner Minshew, so it won't be long now. When you also, Indianapolis, they put the pieces in place. They're one of the teams, actually all these teams did a really good job with their rookie quarterbacks, Carolina, Houston, of putting some good talent around their franchise quarterbacks. And when you have a good run game there like they have in Jonathan Taylor, and you have some good young pass catchers, there is an opportunity to be good. Not to mention, you coming from an offense there that Jalen Hurts basically ran in a bunch of touchdowns himself from the 2-yard line. It's probably going to hurt Jonathan Taylor a little bit, but not so much because when you look at what Miles Sanders did in the same offense, Miles Sanders still had 11 touchdowns. So for those who are worried about Anthony Richardson cannibalizing the touchdowns on the goal line, don't worry. Miles Sanders, of all people, still had 11 rushing touchdowns last season for the Philadelphia Eagles in Steichen's offense. Now, Michael Pittman, he's the number 3 fantasy option for the Indianapolis Colts. Matt Ryan, he wasn't going to push the ball down the field, but Anthony Richardson, he will. When you're looking at high volume targets there, Pittman had the lowest percentage amongst receivers last season at 11%. That number is certainly going to go up. Now, number 4, the rookie out of North Carolina, Josh Downs. This came down to Downs and Alec Pierce. This could flip-flop based on how OTAs. I said this is the camp battle that I'm really interested in watching how it plays out. But Downs shouldn't have a problem beating out Isaiah McKenzie for that slot role, a role that is very favorable with a rookie quarterback there. If Reggie Wayne likes Josh Downs, I'm telling you right now, you probably should too. And number 5, Jelani Woods, a quarterback's best friend, has always been a tight end. It also helps when your tight end is an athletic freak. Expect a breakout in 2023 after seeing 2.6 yards per route run over the final 6 weeks. If you're concerned about Anthony Richardson's accuracy, Jelani Woods is one of those math-changing type tight ends because you can't overthrow him. He is that big. He's got that big of a wingspan. He's pretty much going to haul in everything and anything.